I had been a teacher for 17 years. So
Wow.
I had no idea. I was like, I don't even know what to do after this. I realized that when I was a math teacher, I was selling a subject that almost every student hated and despised. And I had to walk into that classroom every single day and convince them that they needed my product. So every single day, I was convincing students that they needed the product that I was selling. And I had to follow up with them just like you do in sales.
Yo, what's up, y'all? If you are trying to break into tech sales, you're in luck because I've got Sharla Adams in the house today. She has been in the tech space for 3 years, started as an ISR, which is just the same thing as an SDR, BDR, and she actually transitioned from education, being an AP Calc teacher, into tech sales. So we talk about that transition, her fears with it, if it's been worth it or not. And she's got some tips for you about how to stand out in your interview and application process. If you're trying to get a job and you're struggling, I am an SDR leader. I've been helping people get into tech sales for years now. And I've actually made a completely free step-by-step guide that shows you exactly how to do the job to get the job, land interviews, crush those interviews, and secure offers. That guide, free link, will be right down in the description below. All you have to do is click on it, sign up, and I will personally DM you once you're over there to make sure you're set up for success with the guide and help you from there. Enjoy. Sharla, thank you so much for jumping on. Really appreciate it. I'm excited to hear from you about your journey into tech sales. Let's start with what you're doing currently, right? So, what's your title right now, and how long have you been in the role that you're in?
So my title is Senior Inside Sales Representative. So right along the lines of your SDR podcast. And I am in charge of generating leads, qualifying leads for my outside sales team. We do have two other inside sales team in the group. And so I am their resource mentor if they need any help. But we are assigned to our own outside sales representatives. So we don't work together a whole lot, but I am the head senior inside sales.
Super cool. Okay. And are you guys inside sales right from the get go? Or was this like kind of a career development path where you came in as an SDR, EDR, and then you promoted forward? Like, what does that look like for you?
There was only one other inside salesperson besides me in this company, and they were promoted to outside sales very quickly because this company has grown very quickly. And I came in and replaced him, and then we added two more. And it's always the title's always just been inside sales. So there's never.
Except for you, because it sounds like you're gearing up for a promotion here to outside. Great job leading. That's super cool.
So
So,
it's funny you say that. To be honest, I'm still inside sales by choice right now. I love the hunt. I know I can make more money with outside sales, but I'm not the type of person that likes the hurry up and wait scenario. So I
yeah.
like it and inside sales is a little bit more fast paced to me. I'm sure I will move up eventually, but that is by choice right now.
Okay, well, that's a good point. Let's break down the verbiage for people who might not really know, like, well, what's inside sales versus outside sales? For you at your company, like, what does that actually mean? Because a lot of times inside sales is working kind of warm deals where they're coming in and you're kind of developing the business, or sometimes it's an outside move supporting another rep. So, what does it look like for you guys?
I think we wear all the hats
Okay.
because we wear all the hats. So our job is to go hunt, go prospect. I use multiple platforms to find leads. We have some paid databases where I can search a specific industry and job titles and just start making cold calls. I use Sales Navigator to generate, custom lists, and then I save those lists so that I get recurring notifications.
Yeah.
We collect leads from webinars, from our website. So my job is to go find all those contacts, see if they're qualified, pass them along to the outside sales rep and make sure they stay warm.
I love it. Okay, cool. So you're doing everything. And that's actually a good point. So if you're listening to this, y'all, you will do a lot. You will have to do more probably than your job description says, but it's good because you're going to learn, you're going to grow. It's all fun. So thank you,
And it
Charlotte.
depends on the size of the company. I mean, we're a small company and in small companies you just wear a lot. So if
Yeah,
you're at a really big corporation, you're probably going to be more siloed into a smaller thing, but
very true. Absolutely. And another good point there is don't get so caught up on the title itself because a lot of people are like, well, what's the difference between a sales development rep and a business development rep or an
mhm.
inside seller like Charla is, or an inbound rep, like a lot of times these titles don't really mean much. I think the biggest difference is probably inbound and outbound,
Mhm.
where, in your case, Charlotte, it sounds like you guys handle both, right?
We gotta handle
Okay.
both.
Yeah, and again, being at a smaller company, for sure, you just gotta roll with the punches. Pros and
Yeah.
cons of big companies, small companies. I love small companies, it seems like you do too.
You
I
get a
love it.
little bit of freedom at a small company. I
Yeah,
was given a lot of freedom when I first joined, so I kind of came in and just made this role kind of what I wanted it to be. So I
yeah.
played with whole marketing because at the time we didn't have a marketing person. So I was, sending, generating email campaigns, and I started a link or a TikTok page and just all kinds of things. So
Nice. Very cool. That sounds so fun, and that's again, in a small company, you get a lot more latitude to do
mhm,
stuff because the company's just trying to win and gain
yeah,
momentum, and whoever's gonna contribute to that, they're open to it. And by the way, how long have you been in the tech sales space now? How many years?
3 years.
3 years. Okay, 3 years in. What were you doing before tech sales?
So I was a high school AP calculus teacher.
Look at you. That's crazy. Okay. Okay, cool. How did you hear about tech sales then?
So, like a lot of teachers, I decided that I needed a different career path, just needed to get out of that environment. And I had been a teacher for 17 years. So
Wow.
I had no idea. I was like, I don't even know what to do after this. I was like, I didn't even know what was out there. So I
Yeah,
got on LinkedIn and I started applying to different jobs and, just stuff that anything that caught my eye.
yeah,
This one caught my eye because 3D printing, I mean, how cool is that, right?
yeah,
I don't know,
100%.
we haven't talked about what our company does, but we sell industrial 3D printers. So we're a
Oh,
reseller,
wait, so that sign real quick behind you were telling me, is that, like, related?
30
Super cool. Wow.
so, I mean, and we are a reseller, we don't manufacture the system, but we
Yeah,
partner with the bigger brands like HP, Desktop Metal, Formlabs. We actually have 16 different partners that we represent. So we sell the machines, but then we also have an engineering side of the company that works with the customers to help them design parts, to print for them, to support the systems when we sell them. So yeah, that's what
mm,
we do. And obviously, I saw that job description and looked at the company. I was like, that looks kind of cool. So I applied. I
nice.
also applied for different things like project managers, and I applied for a training position in the HR department at
Yeah,
major gas company, because I felt like that was the one that I felt like, okay, that applies to my teaching experience the most because I would be in
uh
charge of training new employees, right? And I'm like,
right.
okay, well, I'm just teaching adults instead of kids. Funny story, I went
Is
into
there
that.
a difference, by the way?
I think the adults are worse, honest.
Yeah.
But I went into that interview and the head of HR just was so miserable. Like he
Ooh,
sounded hated his job.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. And I had
That's
applied for
That's
the
a great tip, just real quick for the listeners. Like, when you're interviewing for a company, that will tell you so much about the company. How do people show up to these calls? Do they hate their life or are they like really excited about what they're doing? That's a great point, Charlotte.
I had applied to this job, and this one was actually at the bottom of my list because I had no idea if I could do sales. I was like,
Mm,
I've never done sales a day in my life. I have no clue what to do. So it's kind of at the bottom of my list. But my boss called me, wanted to talk, and he kind of got my thoughts on, why I applied. And we talked about it a little bit. And he said, well, do you think you could do this job? And at first I was like, I honestly have I was honest with him. I said, I honestly have no clue. I said, but I'm willing to learn.
yeah.
And I told him to let me think about it because I wasn't even really sure. And I also the other thing I had to consider is my husband's biggest need is security,
Mm.
and he's never had a job. Nobody in our family's ever had a job that was commission based. So
Yeah.
not knowing how and not all SDR jobs are commission based. Sometimes you can have different pay structures. But when I
Yeah.
started here, it was commission based.
Well, real
And
quick, to be clear. So there was no base pay when you started here.
it was partial. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's standard. I thought you were saying it was full commission. That
No,
exists, but it's rarer that it's like full
yeah.
commission, usually a base pay in there. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, not knowing exactly how much money you're getting every month was gonna be very stressful for for my husband. So that's one
Yeah.
of the reasons why I was very hesitant to even consider this job. But the boss, he liked me and he actually saw more in me than I did, and
Mm.
he continued to chase me actually. which is interesting. But I will tell you, there was a couple of key things that I think that I did that convinced them that I was the right person for the job. Number one, now that I'm doing this job, everyone has sales experience. Everyone in the world has sales experience. Just because you didn't get paid for it doesn't mean you don't have experience. So one of the things I thought about before going into my official interview, I had already spoken to him a couple of times, but when I went into my official interview, one of the things I thought about beforehand is what have I done in my life that would relate to this? And I realized that when I was a math teacher, I was selling a subject that almost every student hated and despised. And I had to walk into that classroom every single day and convince them that they needed my product, which was math, right?
Yeah.
So every single day, I was convincing students that they needed the product that I was selling. And I had to follow up with them, just like you do in sales. You have to follow up with customers, see how they're doing, all of those skills is exactly what I'm doing today. It's just with customers instead of students. And instead of math, I'm selling printers.
Yeah.
So, whatever you're doing, think about how you're selling something to people. And it doesn't even have to be a product, but I mean, we've been doing it since we were children, trying to get our parents to buy the newest and greatest toy. We were persuasive and we said, I need this because, and you convinced people to do something. So we all have sales skills. We just don't know it. And so,
So good.
yeah. So when you go
Yeah.
into those views, make sure that even if you don't have an official record of experience, really internalize what experience you do have. Because when you really start to think about it, you'll realize you do have a lot.
You're not working at the company for free. I can guarantee you that. You're doing something that relates to either growing revenue or retaining
Mhm.
revenue. That's it. Like, it's one of the 2 things. So, Charlotte, you nailed it. And when I work with my clients one-on-one, there's always that fear of like, "I don't have sales experience." And then we end up pulling out, like, percentages and dollar signs and KPIs and metrics, and it's like, "Whoa, I never thought about my job from that lens and that angle
Mhm.
of I am producing revenue or I'm retaining revenue." Such a good point. And for you as an educator, I'm curious, was there any fear transitioning? I know the commission thing. What were you most nervous about transitioning over from education to tech sales?
Well, bureaucracy, which I don't know why, because there's nothing more bureaucratic than a school system. But, we had teachers that came from industry and was so fed up with industry that they came to teaching. And I didn't know a whole lot of people that had left teaching and gone to industry and been happy. So I hadn't been in industry in 17 years, so I didn't know how cutthroat it was going to be. I didn't know how I was going to be treated as an employee. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, there's nothing worse than the way teachers are treated, but
Wow, my goodness. I
but,
was I was in my mom's 6th grade math class, so I unfortunately treated my mom so poorly as my math teacher, but that was not smart to put your kid in your math class, so
no, it's like parents who coach their kids. They're always gonna be way harder on their kids than
yeah,
anybody else.
yeah. So some fear coming into the industry and,
So
would you say overcoming that fear was worth it now that you've been doing this 3 years?
absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely. But I would say, I mean, my advice also is to take your time and research the company because there are companies out there that do not support their employees well. So I definitely found one that definitely, values their employee.
yeah, I would say
Oh,
the 2 best resources just for those listening, like, how do I know if a company's good? 3 ways to do this. One is there's a website called RepVue, REPVUE.com. They have a decent amount of ratings in there that'll actually show you reviews from people that were at the company and give you a look at culture, commission, attainability. That's helpful. The second thing, though, is in the interview process, like we said earlier, that's when you're gonna really suss out, "Do I wanna work with these people?" Right? Are they actually, like, pleasant to be around? The third
and
thing is let me
and
let me nail this real fast. Third thing is call SDRs at the company you're about to interview at and AEs. Like, literally go look up their phone on Apollo or whatever, give them a call, "Hey, I'm interviewing with XYZ company." I've had SDRs at companies say, "Run, do not apply here." And that has been a
yeah.
saving grace. But then you get the other side, which is like, "Yeah, I love it here. It's great. Let me help you." And now you know this is a good company. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Charlotte, but yeah.
So that's right along the lines I was saying because one of the thing that made me go ahead and jump off the cliff and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try it was again, like I said, I was being a little hesitant with my boss. I wasn't sure if this was something I wanted to do. So he asked me, he said, hey, I've got all my sales reps coming in next Thursday for a training. Come in and sit in the training. So I sat in the training and I got to meet all the other sales reps, and they all were generally happy and lovely to be around. And so exactly like, if you can reach out to somebody, not every company is going to invite you to come to a training if you haven't been hired, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So anything you can do to get in the door or talk to people before you decide, I think is
So good. People generally wanna help people, and if
yeah.
you're reaching out, asking for help, they generally wanna help you, so really good point there. Now you've been in this 3 years. What would you say is one of the biggest pros and maybe one of the biggest cons that people really need to, like, reckon with if they're gonna jump into this career?
That one's hard for me to answer because I don't know if my company operates like every company, but in my company, we don't have a specific amount of vacation days or time off. We are so on my side, my video had frozen.
You're good now.
I'm expected to work 8 to 5, but if something's going on, if I have a doctor's appointment, if my kid calls me from school, the do whatever I need to do during the day, is wonderful. Now, I value my company, so if something does come up and I miss a few hours of work, I just sit at home and work for 2 hours. Like, I definitely want to because the more I work, the more I make. So, there's that incentive to, definitely contribute to the company, but the freedom to take care of, mom business and life business and everything else, and it's so refreshing, and it takes so much stress off of me, especially coming from teaching, because trying to take a day off as a teacher is a nightmare. That's why most teachers, they end up with like hundreds of saved up days at the end of their retirement because nobody wants to take a day off of work, not because we want to come to work every day, but because it's more work to be gone.
Yeah.
So it was that part was a whole lot of stress relief on my end is especially having, I have 2 daughters, one's in high school, one's in middle school. They're very active with sports and school and everything else. And so being available to them is very beneficial.
Before you move to the con, start thinking about the con. Quick note on that. Sales is great because it's kind of self-governing. That's why a lot of these companies can give you unlimited PTO because you do have quota, right? You've got to hit goal and it's sales, it's meritocracy, it's performance. And so there is this cool balance of like, hey, if I'm doing well, then I get to enjoy the fruit of that with a lot of freedom and flexibility. And at the same time, it's like, okay, I can technically take time off, but I'm also like not on pace to hit my goal right now. This is not the time to take time off. So I, as someone who was able to be like a consistent performer, I loved the flexibility. Oh my goodness. Like I could work twice as efficiently as some coworkers, get the same results, and I have twice my time back. Right. So I love that flexibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. For the cons, I think it depends on your pay structure. Like I said, right now I have a base salary. I get paid a certain amount for every qualified lead that I pass along, but I also get a percentage of the sale if it closes. With that pay structure, it is a little bit frustrating to do the work that you do, pass the lead along, and then watch something not close that you could have swore was going to close, right? Because your pay is dependent upon those outside salespeople to close the deal. So I have found that a little frustrating, but I have a wonderful, beautiful relationship with both of my outside sales guys. So we do stay in touch with each other. We work as a team. You know, there's a frustration there, but it's not really directed at him. It's just the structure, right?
It's the nature of business. Yeah.
Right. They are considering a different type of pay structure for me because of that reason, to where I might end up getting a little bit higher base salary, but my commission would just be based on the number of leads that I bring in, but they're gonna increase that amount. Excuse me.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of weather changes in Texas lately, and so my
Same.
alerts are going
Yeah.
crazy. Um, so yeah, so with if I move to that pay structure, I think that frustration will go away because my commission will not be based off of if the deal closes. It's just the number of leads that I qualify. And so I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a real big motivator of, okay, get more leads, get more leads, get more leads, get more leads. So yeah. And other than that, I can't really think of a calling. So if they do change my pay structure, then I don't have a calling,
No
honestly. That's
cons. Yeah. Well,
sorry.
would you agree it's tough work? Well, okay, you know what? You taught AP calculus, so if anyone's qualified to say no to that, you are, so never mind. I love it. So
You
just to
do have to have thick skin though, like, you cannot get offended if you send out, 30 emails, 20 LinkedIn messages, 40 phone calls, and not get a single person to reach you, which I don't have very many days like that usually, I mean,
yeah.
but there are those days, and I just it none of that has ever bothered me, but I do know that there are some people that get very discouraged by that, so
If you need to develop thicker skin, go teach AP Calc. How about that? What just to break down pay structures real quick for those that don't know, there's typically like 5 probably common ones. So the first one is actually a no commission structure where you're just paid like an hourly rate or a flat rate. Rare, rare. And I would probably avoid those ones because you can't really control your income. And that's kind of the whole benefit of sales. Like you get
right.
paid for what you put in. The most common pay structure is probably like a 50 to 60K base with a 20 to 30K variable. It's usually like 66% of your pay is base, 33% of your pay is you can go earn commission. And most companies will do it on meetings that you book, and that's the only thing you have to control. Can you book meetings? And then there's maybe some variance of like, oh, we only pay you for meetings that you book that show up, right?
Mhm.
Or the third one is we pay you on meetings you book, but they have to be qualified. So those
Right.
things are like pretty well in your control. Now, the pay structure you're talking about is you get the base, you get the commission, but part of your commission is tied directly to if that deal closes. Rarer too, right? The most common are going to be did you set a meeting and did they show up or were they qualified? That's probably the most common model. So your model is like your pay is dependent on it. And then the last one is these two where you get paid for meetings you book and set. But if it closes, you get an additional kicker on top of it. Your pay isn't really dependent or contingent upon it closing. It's more of like, hey, by the way, that deal closed. We're going to give you like 0.5% or 1% of the deal or whatever it might be. So, yeah, Charlotte, to your point, a change might be welcomed. I understand.
I mean, there
Cool.
is a bit though, because I think I'm a little bit more kept in this other pay structure because, like, if my guys end up having a phenomenal year and just, close a bunch of crap, I would benefit from that.
Yeah.
But I think this one's a little bit more stable and it still gives me that opportunity to control how much I make. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And look, guys, don't get so caught up in the pay structure of the role because you're only going to be there like a year to 2 years and then
mhm.
you're going to promote and then it doesn't matter. So don't let that be the factor. Let it be a factor. Charlotte, I want to respect your time here. Last question I have for you. What would your advice be to someone who actually wants to go get a job? Because the market's changed so much. Can't really like throw resumes in anymore and pray. It's more like you have to take action. So what would your advice be? How can people listening to this go actually land an SDR, BDR job?
That is a really hard one for me to answer because, like I said, I wasn't even looking for this job. But to your point earlier of reaching out to the SDRs in the company already, LinkedIn is phenomenal. Like, get out there and show that you are willing to do those cold calls. You are willing to go be aggressive and find contact information. Because, I mean, in this day and age, you almost have to have some kind of personal connection to the company before they'll even consider you. Like you said, just throwing in a resume is not gonna work anymore. You have to get your face in front of somebody that can vouch for you, you know?
Yeah, 100%. We have a saying over here, do the job to get the job, right? And like Charlotte said, every one of you have sales experience. It just might not be in the way you're thinking about it. So Charlotte, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And I'm just really encouraged that you were able to transition from an education background because I think there's a lot of educators that want to do it, but they're scared.
Mhm.
And you're living proof amongst many other examples I have of people I've hired that were educators and have crushed sales. So thank you for being an example for those people.
Absolutely, and where are you at in Florida?
Sarasota, Florida.
Where is that?
It's south of Tampa. Tampa's like the middle left side of Florida.
Okay. Well, you're too far away, but I do go to Disney every year for my daughter's dance competitions, so if you were closer, I'd come say hi.
There you go. Orlando's like 2 hours away. It's doable. So really good to connect, Charlotte. Thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite.